But it's not good leadership to just shoot these things into the wind and then be like, well, hopefully they figure it out. These are your agencies. These are your executive agencies. The reason why these exist is to help you carry out your job as president. You're not supposed to be adversarial to them. They're there to help you carry out your job. But somebody said it had like, who's ruling by tweet? First of all, I'm just saying that would be a dumb thing to do because you're just doing a top-down order without letting anybody know. Secondly, though, it's funny that you say that because I'm pretty sure there were times in Trump's first admin where he literally tweeted, and that was the first time anybody had heard that particular policy going out. So I'll say I was using a hyperbolic example, but funnily enough, Trump has actually done that. He has tweeted out. I thought it was related to military stuff, where he just tweets shit out and people are like, oh wait, is this like a thing now? Are we doing this? But
a number of government-funded organizations, so these are organizations like Meals on Wheels, right? Their job, their mission, it's a private organization. They get grants from the federal government. They feed seniors. A number of government-funded organizations, so these are organizations like...
Oh, also, bro, as I've gotten like closer to the top of like all this political stuff and all these organizations, I always assumed that there was like a certain echelon that you broke into where it's like, oh, these people are like serious and everybody knows their shit and like everybody really has a good handle on what's going on. And it is not like that. I only say this because I feel like through cutting programs and shit, sometimes people find out like what shit does. Like when people are like, oh, we should cut all the government funding to these entitlements. And you're like, okay, well, what does that money go to? And they're like, well, probably to fucking woke universities and DEI programs. It's like, no, actually this like feeds hungry veterans and the VA. And like this funds Medicaid. And this funds like your office of like waste management. So sewage, like people have just no idea where any of the, like, it's like retards. Oh my God. But I don't know. Well, it's
Meals on Wheels, right? Their job, their mission.
Oh, also this Stephen Miller guy, this guy is evil. This is an evil person. He's not like a dumb person. He's not like a political whatever. He's an evil person. Okay. Super right-hand man for Donald Trump, un-American, treasonous piece of shit. Okay. Don't ever confuse it.
It's a private organization. They get grants from the federal government. They feed seniors. Meals on Wheels is currently in the dark. They don't know, does this order affect us? Does this mean we're not going to have any more funding coming in? They feed like 2 million seniors. So I'm just wondering, first of all, why a pause? An investigation, sure, I get that. Auditing, sure. Why a pause? And what about...
Well, Jake, once you spend money, you can't get it back. So, in other words, if you don't put federal programs under review that are wasteful or harmful to taxpayers, and then people hit send, you wouldn't believe the payments we've had to pause over the last few days with bureaucrats trying to funnel money out of the door, funnel money to the World Health Organization, funnel money to resettlement organizations, funnel money to foreign countries.
Like, when you say funnel money, do you mean just send the money where it was already allocated to go? Always pay attention. You have to protect your mind, okay? Everybody is crazy in the world right now, except for me, okay? And I'm not a cult leader, I promise. But like, the two biggest political streamers right now on Twitch are Hassan and Asmongold. What the fuck is happening on the planet, okay? Just be mindful of, it's not always what people say, it's what they don't say, okay? It's not always what they say, it's what they don't say, okay? When we say funneling, just think about what's being said, because a lot of stuff, there's a lot of verbiage that can be used to make you think something bad is happening, but you should like ask for an example. You know, when you say funneling money, maybe, I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll give it, like funneling money, like how I funnel money to like employees, or how like I funnel money to a gas station clerk when I buy a candy bar. Like, what do we mean by funnel money? But okay. Because he's like, it almost sounds like he's alleging like criminality or criminal behavior. What do you mean funneling money? Like stealing it, or?
And so, of course, you have to put a pause on these discretionary grants of funding and have a political review process. In other words, there are people that are accountable to the taxpayer to review. It does not include, the review process does not include any public benefit program. So you mentioned Meals on Wheels. That is a public benefit program. OMB's been clear about this. Jake, we have to get control over this government. You know, I'll just stay on this point about NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Joe Biden gave just one NGO responsible for resettling illegal aliens $3 billion, with the B, $3 billion
Who? Name it. For what? That's a lot of money. Biden did this personally? Like Joe Biden, who's simultaneously like the most senile guy in the world, but is also masterminding everything. But now remember, whenever they use a Democrat's name, the reason why these arguments are so strong for conservatives when the syntax sounds so stupid is because every time they say a name, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, AOC, what they're always talking about is the deep state, which is whoever you want it to be. That's what they're always talking about. So that's why it's always like, if you were to push them and we were to try to figure out like what the fuck do they mean, the deep state. Maybe it wasn't Biden, but it was the people behind Biden. You know, it's always something like that.
Dollars. President Trump, when he said drain the swamp, he meant it. And yes, so those kinds of spending programs are going to be put under review.
Okay. I don't think anybody's taking issue with if you find money that is being dispersed in an inappropriate way, halting it. I think what the confusion is this seemed to a lot of groups and a lot of states, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, like.
A bit off topic, but do you think there is any chance the court could agree with Trump's EO about birthright citizenship? I don't know enough background. I don't know the law. I know a lot of people were linking a court case earlier. I am like totally a layman when it comes to anything having to do with like birthright citizenship. I don't know the history. I don't know any of that. In my like layman's feeling, the thing that would scare me is if they do it's called a writ of certiorari. So the Supreme Court agrees to hear the case. And then 2, the EO gets like overturned, but it gets overturned like 7-2. And we find out there's like an appetite in the court for an executive order rewriting parts of the Constitution or doing constitutional interpretation like that. That would be really wild to me. Would it actually get overturned? No shot. I can't believe that. That would be crazy. But like seeing like Alito and Thomas hop on it, like, I don't know, that would just be wild, but Jesus.
Like a very sweeping order, and there is confusion. I just want to make sure I understand. So anybody out there that provides school lunches, anybody out there?
Yeah,
Do you think this shutdown is a good thing because the people that voted for Trump that rely on these things will see how retarded Trump is, or do they not have the ability to perform introspection? Okay, I'm trying to do this better. I read some stupid quote. You've all heard this before. A grant of certiorari, whatever. Not the writ. The writ is the request. The quote is something like, don't go where the puck is, but go where the puck will be. Try to be where the puck will be, right? When you say, I made this mistake, I think, and I take it back, that there needs to be like punishment for conservatives in order for them to understand like the bad choices they're making. This, I think, relies on the faulty assumption that what I consider a bad outcome, they would consider a bad outcome. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if prices go up because of all the tariffs, then Trump voters are going to realize they made a mistake and we're going to walk back from that policy. That was what I thought. But I actually don't think that will happen. I think what will happen is I think people will start bragging about, or it'll be considered like patriotic to pay more for eggs made in America or something. I think that what I considered a bad thing, they would see as like a noble, is it exsanguination, or there's a name for like when you it's not flatulence, flagellate? Is it flagellation? Yeah. I wish I could remember an article I read a long time ago about this, but like sometimes people will say they want a thing, but in reality, they just want somebody else to suffer or hurt. Like it's unironic, like own the libs thing, where as long as somebody else is getting fucked over, you'll take a little bit of pain. So if the tariffs go through and China is bitching about it, or Mexicans are complaining about it, or whatever, or at least conservatives make you think they're complaining about it, then they'll be okay. They'll be happy paying higher prices. They'll be like, okay, yeah, it. Okay, that's fine. At least we're doing it for America, you know? I think that's the world that's not the world that we're headed for. I think that's the world that we're in right now. And I think we need to realize that more.
Zero impact on public benefit programs, full stop, as OMB has made clear. And I want to really drill down on this, Jake, because it's so important. There's 2 million employees in the federal government.